Whenever someone thinks of a horror game, a couple of different series always come to mind. Stuff like Resident Evil, Dead Space, The Last of Us, and Silent Hill. Despite the fact that there hasn't really been a new Silent Hill game for 2 console generations now. And going onto the PlayStation Store, you can only find a Dead by Daylight collab, but no actual Silent Hill game, besides a remake that has yet to come out. But aside from Konami's incompetence, I wanted to try playing the very first Silent Hill game the only way I can, with a PS1 emulator that's also shaped like a Game Boy. I also tried playing it on my laptop, which is a normal, run-of-the-mill laptop, not a gaming one or anything like that. I don't even have a graphics card, and it ran pretty well, with stable 50 to 60 FPS. And I'm gonna leave a video in the description detailing how you can run it exactly. But I wanted to see how it holds up as a 24-year-old game.
Damn! I'm sorry.
What it did right, and how it managed to become a beloved cult classic. To my surprise, the game holds up in multiple aspects, like the story, music, level design, and just the entire atmosphere that it creates. But the controls are a bit of a different story. They're extremely outdated, with an off-putting clunkiness and slight inversion that was completely jarring to me at first. It made moving in tight areas such a headache, with every incorrect turn I made being difficult to correct course again, because my character wouldn't just simply turn around with the D-pad, he'd gallop backwards instead, like a horse. But a couple of hours in, as I kept going, I slowly found myself kind of getting used to it, and overall I think I like how clunky the controls were sometimes, just because of how intense it made enemy encounters. You play as Harry Mason, a guy who woke up in Silent Hill after crashing his car. He doesn't remember much, besides that he's looking for his daughter, who's named Cheryl. He roams around the town surrounded by fog as he walks into abandoned buildings looking for his daughter, or just for any signs of life in general. At some point, he even comes across a cop named Sybil at a diner. She agrees to help Harry look for his daughter and hands him her gun, which is a very sensible thing to do, considering that there are flying demon bats and undead dogs chasing after him outside. But leaving the diner, Harry goes to look for his daughter again. He finds a couple of clues that all lead to the Midwich Elementary School on the other side of town. And after a couple of attempts to cut through all the different intersections all failed, I just caved in and looked up a guide on YouTube. I mean, I totally knew that I had to collect 3 keys that represent the eclipse or something. But using those keys, we can unlock a backyard door and pass through the house to Midwich Street and make our way to the school. Now, this actually isn't my first time playing a Silent Hill game. I tried Homecoming around a year ago, and despite it not being the strongest game in the series, I really dug the combat. Homecoming's combat felt as fun as something like the Callisto Protocol can be, with its dodge and hit till it's done gameplay loop that does get repetitive after a while, but I thought worked really well for Homecoming especially, which was a PS3 game, by the way. It even had a good amount of detail, with weapons bouncing off in the environment and the variety of takedown animations. But in Silent Hill 1, combat is very different than all of the other games in the series. Even when Silent Hill 2 had some of the same weapons, it had a much more refined system. Don't get me wrong, for a game on the PS1, it's amazing. Silent Hill did its best to integrate action gameplay with the melee weapons and the guns you get throughout the game, but good luck trying to aim at anything. And I think the devs knew this at the time and tried to balance things out by increasing Harry's health, making him harder to kill, and also by not throwing too many enemies at you all at once. But even if they do, you'll often become surrounded by enemies on the ground, not the flying demon bats that are harder to aim towards and kill. A funny detail I actually learned recently is that if you completely stop running when one of those flying enemies tries to attack you, it'll miss you 100% of the time. It's only ever programmed to hit Harry if he keeps running, but a sudden stop in movement and it'll just pass by. Later on, Harry gets teleported into a hospital in another dimension that's a barren wasteland surrounded by rust and rooms that look like they're straight out of a trap in the Saw movies. Carried by the soundtrack and the lack of detail with the PS1 graphics, the entire vibe of this other world is extremely unsettling, and Harry makes it to hell and back to look for his daughter. The boss fights in this game, while they aren't really frequent, they're memorable enough, and I still have images of them ingrained in my mind, and I don't think I'll forget them anytime soon. Along the way, Harry comes across other survivors, with some very suspicious folk among them. But what you can expect from the story is a horror cult mystery with some pretty good ideas and some amazing execution for the time. But in comparison to a modern game that I played recently called The Medium, which is also a survival horror thing inspired by Silent Hill with fixed cameras and stuff. There's definitely a night and day difference between a game that came out in 1999 and a game that came out in 2021, is all I want to say. Fun fact, Blooper team who made The Medium are also remaking Silent Hill 2, which I think personally is cool. Their visuals, if anything, look amazing. I know some people don't like the way they write stories, but I felt like The Medium was okay. I personally didn't like the ending, but that's a story for another time. But anyway, it's definitely interesting. I like the vibe. I like the ideas that the game throws around. I was genuinely terrified throughout the game. From just enemies popping up. Even if there are no enemy encounters whatsoever and you're just walking back, like backtracking somewhere you already went through before, the music and the atmosphere of the game and Harry's footsteps that sound like horseshoes, it all creates this unsettling and unnerving atmosphere that I haven't seen anything else recreate to the same extent. And I can say that I get it now. I know why this game hasn't died down. If anything, it's gotten more popular in the 24 years since its initial release. So I'm happy that I got to try out Silent Hill. I haven't even finished the game, but maybe I'll build up the courage to do so if I can get over my fear of being stranded alone in Silent Hill, and if I can also take control of the controls more. Take control of the controls. Yeah, that's a sentence I said. But I might just switch over completely and play a new save file on PC. I think that's going to be much easier to control than trying to play it on a Game Boy, because I don't think that's what the devs had in mind at all. But I don't want to spoil too much of the story, so I'm going to leave it here. It's a pretty solid game. So I hope that Konami re-releases it on modern consoles soon, even if it's just a Metal Gear Solid Master Collection type thing like we saw recently. I would still be happy with that because it would just mean ease of access. I know that emulation is a thing and you can play them anywhere, and some people out there, some diehard fans of Silent Hill, they go out there and they buy PS2 and PS3 consoles right now, which is most of the time crazy expensive. And they buy the original games, which are gonna be even way more expensive because of how famous the series is. But I don't think I'm gonna do that. And at the same time, emulation is not as comfortable to me as just sitting on the couch and playing a game. I'm hoping that Konami starts to realize things soon. They're starting to get it back together, you guys, with the Metal Gear stuff, and they're also remaking a Metal Gear game, Metal Gear 3 or Delta or whatever, and the Silent Hill 2 remake. I'm super excited for that. It should be coming out soon, hopefully next year or something. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I know this is a bit of a short video, but I have more stuff like the Death Stranding video in the works, with the next game I want to tackle being Vampire. It's a really cool game that I really like. But yeah, thank you for watching and see ya.